Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It
Morning.
is, hi, it's 9:30. We're going to just wait one more minute for some more people to arrive. Thanks. All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, to this session of the 2024 IWRS updates. I should say welcome back, as you are all renewing grantees. Today's session, we are going to cover updates to the Illinois Works reporting system, items of note in the system, and enhancements that are planned for 2024, for the 2024 grant year. I'm going to make that distinction because it's for those who, what you're doing for this grant year. The target audience for the session includes administrators, data entry coordinators, and any staff accountable for accessing or entering information into IWRS. My name is Dr. Anna Bedard. I am one of the coaches and program analysts with the program, one of three. I'm new this year to the program. I am not new to nonprofits. I worked in nonprofits for about 15 years myself and then did capacity building for nonprofits for another 10 to 15. More recently, I then went to corporate in learning and development. And I have my own practice. I do coaching as well. And so I just, I'm really happy to be back in this space working with nonprofits again. And I'll introduce the other members of our team. We've got a really great team. Some of us are new, some of us are returning. So you'll see some new faces and some old faces. It is great to be with you this morning. The Illinois Works reporting system is designed by SIU's Center for Workforce Development, specifically for the purpose of tracking participant organizational and compliance data for the Illinois Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. We launched the database in February 2022, and then we did leverage feedback that we received from you last year to make updates. And so we're going to be talking about those updates that have been implemented and are operational. And you will also be introduced to other updates that are planned prior to the end of the 2024 grant year. IWRS, I said we'll talk about the team a little bit. So Dr. Norman Ruano is our deputy director. You will remember him from last year. And as well as Dan Martinez, one of our grant managers. We have two other grant managers who are new this year, Steve Scott, and then Monica. You want to just come off mute and say hi, because Monica is with us today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'll be talking with you in the chat.
Thanks, Monica. And so you've all been already in communication, I believe, with your grant managers. But just to put a face to a name in case you haven't seen each other. And then I'm also joined by our other coaches and program analysts and support staff, Dr. Vera Lee Robinson. Vera Lee, you want to say hi?
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back.
Dr. Gia Suggs. Gia, you want to say hi?
Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome.
Great. And then Dr. Jeff Doolittle is not with us this morning, but you will see him. He will become a familiar face as he is our virtual production coordinator. The purpose of today's session is to help you to utilize the new features and tools reports in IWRS and prepare for additional features that will be rolling out this year. Just as a reminder, the session is being recorded and it will be available on the Illinois Works Partner Guide site. So that link is being put into the chat. If for some reason you don't already have it saved, bookmarked in your browser, I encourage you to bookmark it, and you can see it just popped up there because that's your place for all things helpful with the program. And so you'll be able to, if you want to go back and review the session, or if you have another coworker who wasn't here today who needs to watch it, you can just send them to the site. Any questions before we move forward? All right, we're going to keep going. We're just going to do some introductions, and I want to get you into Mentimeter and identify your comfort level with IWRS so that we have a sense of who's in the room. But before I do that, I just want to remind you that if you have any comments, questions, or feedback, outside of what we're doing here today, feel free to email us at this email address, and that address is being also dropped into the chat so you can easily capture it. So Mentimeter, this is the fun part. We're doing some different things in Mentimeter this morning, so we're going to ask you to get in. You can get in different ways. We're putting those links, I think forget who's putting in. One of our team members is putting the link to the Mentimeter into the chat. And so once that's there, you'll be able to just click on that link. But in the meantime, you can always just go to your browser and click or just type in www.menti.com and then enter in the 8 numbers that you see there. And you can also do it on your phone. If you prefer to do that, you might not want to be toggling between different screens, so feel free to do it in your phone as well. All right, so just www.menti.com. And then enter the numbers 7601-3717. I'm just going to wait a moment for everybody to get in, and I am going to now show this screen. I see we've got 7 people in, and you can see at the top of the screen, it says join at menti.com using that code. Great, we've got 10 in so far, 11. I'm just going to wait for people to have the chance to enter. You're going to click. You can click on this link, www.menti.com, and then you're going to enter 7601-3717. I see people are joining. I know it takes a minute, so we will give you a second. You don't need to have your own login. You just go in and it works. So we're up to 17. We're going to keep going. We're going to pause just momentarily. Good morning, Rochelle. Good to see you.
Morning.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience while we allow everyone to get into the Mentimeter, because this is it's a really great tool for participation. We want to make sure that you can participate fully in the session. We're up to 18. 19. And we have a good 45 participants in the room, so I'm just going to wait another minute for that. All right, I am going to get started. To learn how. Here we go. All right, please share in the Mentimeter. Share your name, organization, role, and geographic location, please. Let's just see who's in the room. Thanks, William. You can leave yours there. That's fine. So we've got one in the chat. Welcome, William and Sarah. And then we've got folks who are entering it into the Mentimeter. Debbie, Jackie, Shakira, Celia, Damien. Welcome. We've got a hand waving. That's awesome. Thank you very much. Lakeisha, Taylor, Anna. We've got folks from Evanston and Decatur and Pekin and Chicago, from Higher 360, from Richland Community. And now we've got more folks in the chat. I see not everybody got into the Mentimeter, so that's okay. We also have some folks introducing themselves in the chat. We've got Erica from Take and Sarah Collins from Higher 360. It's great to see you all here. Thank you so much. And then I'm going to keep moving here. We just want to get a sense of you who are in the room. How would you rate your knowledge and skill with IWRS? All right. We've got a bunch of people who feel competent in it, and 3 experts and 3 novices. All right. Wonderful. So that gives us a sense. Great. Most of you know what you're doing in there, and I see more people are joining into the Mentimeter here. So that's good to know. And we have some brand new people. I will say this session is designed to give updates. And so we've been doing other sessions to teach people how to get into IWRS and how to do some of the basics. This is focused, it's a shorter session, and it's going to be focused on those updates. So if you are one of the newer folks, just know that that's the level that we are directing the conversation to. All right. And I'm just any questions or comments before I hand this over to Dan Martinez to start talking about the new IWRS features.
So far, there's nothing in the chat, Anna.
Thanks, Monica. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Dan. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Anna. And if I could ask Monica, could you please re-enter the Mentimeter link into the chat? I know you had put it in there earlier. I just want to stress the importance to everyone of participating in Mentimeter as we go through the presentation. First of all, with all of our meetings, we really are trying to build community. That's why we have some in-person meetings. And when we can't do the in-person meetings, we really want to build our network and make sure you are all building relationships with one another and networking. So this is one of the ways in which we are able to do that. As a side note, there have been instances where organizations, which of course are required to attend these meetings and then have not, and there's questions as to whether or not they attended. We record these sessions, we keep a log of that. So certainly WebEx tracks who's on this and we get a report after each one, but then this is a secondary method that sometimes we include. And I do want to mention whoever's sharing the screen that their Teams is on the screen right now. So if they could move that, thank you. All right, so I am excited to talk to you all about the new IWRS features. They, as you know, and a lot of you have asked questions about, we've been rolling these out. We've worked very closely with Southern Illinois University. All right, we're still getting some teams there. So we've worked very closely with Southern Illinois to update these features. And so I'm excited to talk about it. So we'll just jump right into it. At the end of this section, you'll be able to, talk about the new features, describe those new features, understand some of the tools and reports that we're going to be using in 2024 in IWRS. So it's important to know as we get to these that although we have achieved many updates, we're still going to be rolling out tweaks to some of these updates and new updates throughout the year. And we'll talk about some of those as we go. So the first big update is a space on intake for the high school diploma, transcript, GED, high school equivalency. So since the inception of Illinois Works pre-apprenticeship program back in 2022, that has been one of the foundational eligibility requirements. Grantees were required to obtain proof of high school completion and retain that in the participant's paper file. So with the 2024 guidance to be in compliance, all grantees must now upload each of their participants' educational documents into IWRS. So acceptable documents, as I just mentioned, would be the high school diploma, and a transcript showing attainment of the high school graduation, a GED, test confirmation, passing the GED, or the HiSET, the high school equivalency. So you'll notice that there is a link to perform this upload, and it's located on step 1 of the intake page. So on the screen, you can see a small red box that's highlighting the intake page. So when you're on a particular participant's profile, you'll be able to select that intake button, and then you see the larger red square there. And I'll demonstrate this live in a moment. Then you will be able to, go underneath the application and actually perform the upload. So this upload will be confirmed by your Illinois Works grant manager during enrollment verification. So what a lot of programs experienced is that the first time that they were required to produce those documents were during an audit. Those audits are mandated by the Office of Accountability. They're not something that the Office of Illinois Works controls, even though we may be the one to request the documents on their behalf or perform on-site visits on their behalf. But so they're the ones that ultimately request those and require those. So this is an excellent way for us to make sure that all the grantees have them on the front end. So that's one of the big changes that IWRS has implemented and is live in the system. The next change is on attendance entry. So as I'm sure you are all aware, previously attendance in IWRS was entered on a per module, per participant basis every week and every day of their session. In 2024, the system will now allow grantees to submit only the total hours that the participant attended a particular training session. So this is obviously much faster. It's a much more streamlined method compared to needing to go into IWRS and identify the exact time that the participants started training for a single day, 9:30 a.m. until 11 a.m. And then let the system calculate the number of hours. Instead, we're going to just have you enter the total number of hours at the completion of that training module. So as always, there is a required number of hours and the actual attendance hours, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. One of the things that allowed us to do this, and in keeping with the Illinois Works guidance, is that attendance rosters must be uploaded for each module into IWRS. So that's a way of us verifying that the total number of hours that are entered are in alignment. We'll talk about adding those in a moment. The attendance rosters will be added to the provider information tab, where it will then be organized by the uploads of the rosters will be organized on a per module basis. So this was designed to benefit the grantees and simplify roster entry into IWRS rather than doing this on a per participant basis. And as I mentioned, we'll actually show you that a couple of screenshots of that in a moment. But let's look at what we see here on the screen and how attendance would be entered for a given participant. So the first thing you would do, of course, would be to access a participant's profile. You would then go to the training and service tab, which is highlighted in the top red box there in kind of the top center of the screen. Right away, you would then go to scroll down to the training services goals. That's not displayed on the screen, but the training services goals, then underneath each of the training service goals are the training modules. So you would select the actual training module that you wanted to enter attendance for, so whether it's hand tools or OSHA 10 or Illinois Works orientation, or in this case here, we have first aid CPR. So when you select first aid CPR,
Dan, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we supposed to be seeing your screen right now?
you are supposed to be seeing a slide right now.
Okay, I didn't know if you were talking about this process and showing it to us.
I will, yes.
Perfect.
Yep. So first we're going to just verbally discuss it on slides, and then I'm going to demonstrate it live.
Perfect.
So it's kind of a show and then demonstrate format. So yeah, thanks for asking. Thanks for keeping me on track too, because obviously I'd hate to go down a 15-minute path only for the screen not to be showing what we needed to show. So again, yeah, so we're just looking at the slide right now to highlight the examples here where you would then have in the green box the required number of hours for that that training module. Now it's called attendance hours required. Those are entered by your grant manager. They're entered one time on the cohort level, and so we'll discuss that in a few minutes as well. But so that will be a grayed out screen, something that you're not able to change or enter. But below that green box is the total attendance hours. So those are the actual hours that you will then update. And you'll notice that we included this on the status default tab. So that's just one less click that you would need to do. There's not a defined attendance tab as there was in the past. So this is all about adhering to some of the suggestions and requests that we have received from grantees throughout the last 2 years to simplify the process and to reduce the amount of time it takes to perform different data entry tasks. So there's also going to be a method of bulk entry of this attendance. So Illinois Works created this bulk attendance method through the reports icon. So if we go to the next screen, this is just going to kind of highlight, how you get there. Right now, there's a little bit of navigation to it. Again, as I said, we're constantly going to be looking for ways to tweak and update this process. But do know that this was a very significant programming effort that was needed to be undertaken by Southern Illinois University, and so we're very appreciative for them to have been able to make this change, and now we're going to work with everyone to make sure that it works the best way possible for our grantee network. So again, a bulk entry would go through the reports icon. You can see that I'm working top down. That's the little bar graph in your navigation bar. Then once you select that, you can go to the project category and filter for Illinois Works. And from there, you would see an IWRS service report attendance. Upon selecting that, you'll be taken to a report called this, I think, the student report attendance. And then those, you'll then navigate they'll navigate to the attendance report through that report. So it is a kind of a double step there. Again, I'm going to demonstrate this live, but it's still a much simpler method. You'll be able to, in that bulk report, change the status of the module. So you'll be able to, if everyone in that cohort has successfully completed, all 8 hours of the first aid CPR, you'll be able to call that up. Can we go to the next screen, please? There we go. You see, working our way left to right, in red is a status column. You'll be able to select that they've successfully completed a given module. Underlined there, we have the start and end dates. Those will default in from the cohort details screen, which we'll talk about later, as I mentioned. They can be updated live in this bulk attendance feature. In green there is that number of hours required. Again, that's the number of hours that your grant manager has put into the system for that particular training module. And then the total attendance hours. Those are the hours that you will then enter, just as a rule. So then finally, there's a checkbox to indicate whether or not the session included a makeup session, and whether or not that training required a makeup session for that particular participant. So one thing to keep in mind is that in order to enter a successful completion, the post-assessment must have already been entered. So as we all know that a post-assessment of at least 70% is required to be a successful completion. So that is one step that would be required. So you'll access this, as I mentioned, through the customer services report. So this is a little bit out of order, but we just wanted to show you that you would actually access this through a customer services report where it will show you the number of participants that need instructional hours. So again, I'll demonstrate that live in just a moment. All right, the next screen, setting up training dates and uploading rosters. To access the cohort level dates of instruction and roster uploads, you'll go to the navigation bar, and that folder icon that is highlighted in red there is the provider information, provider info tab. After you click on that, you'll go to the provider info screen and select the grantee details subtab. And that's highlighted or circled in red there as well. You may need to select Illinois Works, ILWRS as the project. And then if you have multiple grantee profiles, if you're running multiple grants in different locations, you would also need to select the provider grantee dropdown. And then you'd click select, and that will bring you to your provider information for that grant. You would then scroll all the way down, and it will take you to the cohort details, and you would select, a cohort 1 FY24, cohort 2 FY24. So if we go to the next screen, we'll see that. So again, this is then scrolling all the way down, and then you would see your cohort level information. To start, you will select that cohort, and then you'll enter the start and end dates that are planned for the training module. We understand that these may change, and again, you can update these both on the individual profiles as you enter attendance, or on that bulk attendance report. You will be able to update those ending dates as well. The key point right now, and everyone should have received a message about entering data. And actually, I should probably just address that right now. As you all know, in January at the administrator meeting, Norman had announced that due to the changes in IWRS, that the grantees should only enter individuals as inquiries and not any further into the system. Part of it was for this IWRS update. Part of it was for some of the other updates that took place. But that was an important step to ensure that everyone, all the participants in 2024 are kind of starting at the same level. Then maybe 2 weeks ago or so, everyone should have received an email saying that some of the updates have been implemented and that you could now move those inquiries to the applicant phase. And the importance of that applicant phase is that it allows you to gain access to the intake tab, which will allow you to enter the application, upload the diploma, do the career assessment, upload interview sheets, and on, all the things that are required for it, for intake. And we're asking everyone to hold there until this section is completed, both by your team and by the grant managers. So everyone should have their individuals as applicants right now. And once your grant manager has given you the okay, then you can start moving them to an enrolled status. And we'll address that more in a little bit, but I want everyone to be clear on that. This is part of the reason for that. When you enroll somebody and you change their status from applicant to enrolled, it will inherit all of the characteristics from this cohort detail screen once, right? So if changes are then made after the fact here globally, they will not affect the 20 or 50 people you've already enrolled into that cohort. So that, just to be clear on that, some of these steps are still being taken. These are not system changes. The system updates have taken place. Now these are programmatic changes. Your final curriculum form needs to be finalized. And then once that is, the grant managers need to go in and enter, update the names of the training modules and add any missing training modules, then update the total required hours. Then your team needs to go in and enter the start and end dates, and then they can enroll individuals. And again, your grant manager will communicate that process to you. All right, I
Dan?
see we're having a lot of questions about that.
Right. Would you like me to read the questions we've received or the comments we've received?
Yeah, why don't we take those questions right now, because it's important for everyone.
Okay, so Linda from Southwestern Illinois College did confirm that the email was sent on Monday, and it appears to Linda that it said that she could go ahead. So she already entered some participants. Linda, I'm assuming you went ahead and enrolled them and moved them from applicant. Is that correct? If you could come off of mute and answer. Yes, okay, Linda said yes. So Dan, we have a situation here where Linda has moved some folks to enrolled, and also the same situation with Danielle, who said that she enrolled a few participants, and would we like for her to go in and unenroll those participants?
You know what? We'll have to have that discussion with SIU, the best way to resolve that. Yeah, I'm sorry if there was any lack of clarity in that email. We had meant to make sure that everyone understood that until their grant manager gave them the okay, they were not to move anyone into an enrolled status. So we'll have to figure that out. Reach out to your grant manager. Please send your grant manager an email. And in fact, if I'm not your grant manager, please copy me on it. So if your grant manager is Monica, please send it to her and copy me. If your grant manager is Steve, send it to him and copy me. Or you can just send it to me, and we will consolidate those and figure out what needs to happen in order to resolve this situation. But again, going back to the basis and point of all this, this can all be managed on a per person basis, but essentially you're going to do the same thing for every individual that you could instead just do once on this cohort level. And in some cases, if your training modules have changed, for example, every organization that is using NCCR has added NCCR's applied construction math. That definitely will not be in your cohort details yet. So if you've enrolled individuals, you won't have that in their training profile, and so those will all need to be added manually. So it'll be a lot more work on the back end. So if you haven't entered anyone as enrolled yet, that's great. Hang tight there. We will move forward with that. And you will receive, Monica just put it in the chat. We're going to be sending an email later today discussing how compliance is going to work for this month. So for the individuals or the grantees that have started their cohorts, we will be able to evaluate those participants for enrollment verification. And as I had mentioned in this training, by having them in applicant status, you have access to that intake screen, and you can do everything you need to put the verifications in place for that enrollment. And we'll be able to enroll to perform that compliance verification, even though they're in applicant status. So again, you're going to receive an email about that. Essentially, we're just going to ask you to leave them in applicant status, make sure all that information is filled out. Their interview sheets are uploaded, the interview score is entered, the interviewer names are entered, the career assessment has been entered, the wraparound service assessment has been completed. So you do all that with all of your participants, and then you send us an email with the individuals you want us to review, right? Because we don't know at this point whether somebody's an applicant and they chose not to go any further, or if they're an applicant that's actively in your training right now. And I understand it is because of this delay, but the changes that were made to IWRS, even though they are few in number, they were massive changes. They were the biggest changes we've ever made to the actual software. All right.
Dan,
Any
thank
other
you for
questions about that?
There are no additional questions in the chat, but Joe did give us a shout out regarding bulk attendance. He says, woohoo, thank you very much. So we want to throw that positivity out there as well today.
Yeah, and believe me, this is something that we really wanted for our grantee network. This could reduce the total amount of data entry time by more than 50%. Attendance was the single largest thing. It may have even been 75% of most data entries. So it is pretty significant, and we're happy to have launched that for everyone. And I do see a question about the compliance pull date. It actually will be on Monday this month, because of all these changes, to give everyone just that little bit more time. So again, you'll receive, all the program administrators will receive an email about this later today. But the compliance pull date will be Monday. It will be based off of the applicants that you tell us to look at, and the same requirements will hold true. They have to have their application completed, their commitment agreement signed and uploaded, their interview sheets, all of that. So those things don't change. The only thing that's changing is that we're going to recognize that they are not in enrolled status yet, and we're going to allow that. So okay, moving on. We had talked about the rosters needing to be uploaded. Wait, can we go back one screen? Yeah. The rosters will need to be uploaded since we're not having individual training hours entered. We do want to make sure we're managing and tracking those attendance rosters. And again, this is also, a lot of these things come out of accountability and audits. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to ensure that our grantees pass an audit from the Office of Accountability. So this is also one of the things that will help. You can see on your screen that that one roster has actually been uploaded. when you select the upload roster, upload attendance roster button, it'll ask you what module you're uploading it to or for. And then it will display that roster, that attendance roster, directly under that module on this cohort detail screen. So it actually acts as a filing method and keeps things very clear for both you, for us, and any auditors that come through it in the future. The next screen we're going to talk about is attendance tracking. So this is a little bit of change of pace. We're moving off of attendance, and now we're moving to stipend tracking. The Illinois Works Jobs Program Act requires that all participants are provided with a stipend for instructional hours. As Norman likes to point out, this is the one kind of quote unquote wraparound service that is actually mandated in the law, right? So we have this as its own service. We don't include it under the wraparound services because it is its own kind of entity. As outlined in the grantee manual, the 2024 grantee manual, stipends are required to be performance-based, based on performance and attendance metrics. And so beginning in 2024, grantees are required to provide the Office of Illinois Works with the stipend amount that will be paid to each participant in IWRS. And so a goal has been created. So previously there were 4 goals on the training and services tab. There was, of course, wraparound services, transition services, student support services, and wraparound services. And now a 5th goal has been added called stipend tracking. Underneath stipend tracking is the service itself called program stipend. So you would select that program stipend, and a new screen would appear that's called under stipend entry. We go to there we go. And we would select the dollar value of service subtab. And from there you would click on add service cost. Then a pop-up window will appear, very similar to the way that maybe post assessments are entered or credentials are entered for those of you that are familiar with IWRS. So it's in a very similar manner, but this is for stipends. And it asks for a payment amount, a payment method. So there's direct deposit, there's check, things like that. There's a final payment. It's actually the date of the payment. So when you select it, it will show that it needs to be a date, and then the total stipend amount. So that is the amount that you've paid for that week or couple of weeks. And then the stipend rate per instructional hour. That must be the same for all training hours. And that's been something that was in the grantee manual, since inception. All training hours must have the same stipend rate. So for example, you can't pay out power tools at a higher rate per hour than hand tools, right? So every instructional hour of your program starts off with the same stipend rate, and then based on performance and attendance, that rate can either be paid out or reduced. Stipends are to be entered as they are paid, and per the grantee manual, they are required to be paid on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So as with any data in IWRS, it should be entered in what we refer to as real time. So you should be entering those on a weekly or bi-weekly basis as they're paid to participants. This will then, of course, provide a total, which should match the total amount upon graduation or the completion of the program that participants should have in IWRS, the total amount that was paid out to them. The next update that we have was around wraparound service assessments. So in keeping with the guidance of the 2024 grantee manual, the apprenticeship application fees, mentoring, alumni networking, those 3 services have been removed from the wraparound service assessment because they have been reclassified from wraparound services to transition services. So I'm going to say that again. The assisting participants with paying for apprenticeship application fees, mentoring, and alumni networking have been removed from wraparound services, and they are now part of the transition services. This was discussed in the grantee manual update session, but I want to reiterate the purpose for this. It actually allows grantees to provide these services for longer. Essentially, what we were instructed, what the state told the Office of Illinois Works, was that the only services that can be provided to participants after graduation, after completion of the program, are transition services. Transition services can be provided during the cohort and then post cohort until they are able to enter a registered apprenticeship program. So by moving these to a different classification, it actually allows you to continue to support your participants until they are enrolled in a registered apprenticeship program. And because of that, we needed to move them out of the wraparound service assessment. You'll also notice that digital literacy has been added to that assessment. Okay. Yeah, we're ready to go to the next item. So the alternate construction transition. So this was an update to IWRS, although it's one that only really applies to grant managers, but we did want to make everyone aware of it. So as discussed during the 2024 grantee manual updates webinar, we've added a new transition type. So the alternate construction transition is for any participant that attains permanent employment in construction or utilities, but does not enter a dual registered apprenticeship program. So it's essentially very, very similar to secondary, right? Secondary is any employment. So the person is not going into a registered apprenticeship program. So instead they just decide to go to work, and, maybe they're going to work for, CDW or, UPS or Amazon. That's a secondary transition. What we're acknowledging this year is that there's a difference between going to work for UPS in a warehouse moving boxes and going to work for, say, ComEd through one of their utility programs, or maybe a solar program, which isn't technically considered a registered apprenticeship program in construction in the trades, but is construction related. So we are acknowledging those and have implemented that alternate construction transition. And so this has been, the system has been updated to reflect that. You can see here we're on a participant Tiger Woods profile. The initial tab is the program completion and follow-up. This is where you would select the completion status, where you add your active tracking. It's also where grant managers set verification status. So that big box in red at the bottom of the screen is set verification status. That is something that only grant managers do. And that's where we would then verify that a particular employment is alternate construction versus a typical secondary transition. This also required that the export report be updated as a new field. So there were several things there that we needed to change. Okay, so I know that there were some things going on in the chat I could see out of the corner of my eye. So let's go now to talking about any of these questions.
So let's share. Jackie said that Illinois Skills USA utilized alumni networking during their participation in the program by adding them to the network and allowing them to dialogue with other alumni and get information about the trades before their completion or transition. So as this is no longer considered wraparound, is there something else they could call their alumni networking so that it would fit under the wraparound umbrella?
Well, some of these questions, they might be things you might want to talk a little bit more in detail one-on-one with your grant manager. But I think my initial response, if I'm understanding it correctly, is no, we want them to be considered transition services, right? And you can begin transition services with your participants on day one, right? In fact, that orientation career assessment is the start of the transition process. The transition service coordinators should be reviewing that orientation career assessment to start formulating transition plans for your individuals, right? So I was just talking to the new grantees on Tuesday, and I used the example for that orientation career assessment of you know, your organization might have great relationships with you know, the different registered apprenticeship programs for electricians or carpenters or painters, but maybe you've never developed one for tile setters, and you know, your first cohort starts up, and one of your participants marks that they're interested in tile setters on that orientation career assessment. That's great. That now allows your transition service coordinator to begin developing a plan for them. And maybe even in the second or third week of your cohort, that registered apprenticeship program for tile setters opens up. And that individual hasn't even received a stipend yet from your program, but would like to apply. You can assist them if they need assistance, if they opt into it. You can assist them with paying for that registered apprenticeship program application fee for tile setters. And those are all transition services, and that's fine. It's even though it's happening in the first, second, and third week of your program, and it can continue to happen in the program. And the same with alumni, networking and mentoring. Those things, yes, they're transition services, but they can happen at any time during the program. Just like, you know, career planning or assistance with a resume, we want them to happen during the program, and as well as after graduation.
Thanks, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so William asked, will the new status be retroactive to past cohorts? But if I am correct, Norman has stated in the past that the 2024 guidance is for 2024 grants, so that we would not retroactively change the status, correct?
That is correct. So, right, everything applies, and the grantee manual in 2023 said this. The grantee manual in 2024 said this. Any changes to the processes and the program, those are generally the participant is held to the grant year in which they initially enrolled. So it was true in 2023. We actually made the primary transition. We segmented it, right? There was a preliminary primary transition for applying to a registered apprenticeship program, and then there was a final primary transition for actually enrolling in a registered apprenticeship program. That existed for 2023. Your 2022 participants, they received full primary transition just for applying. And that was the standard that was held for those 2022 individuals. They didn't wind up, you know, going into the kind of additional verification levels that the rest of the program did. So yeah, it's when the individual was part of the program. Now, the wraparound services / transition services, those will need to define a little bit better, but in general, the guidance is based on that participant's enrollment year.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. And then just one last question. Joe's just looking for a little clarification. So with regards to the application fee assistance being moved to transition service, he wants to know, does that mean we cannot use the wraparound service money for assistance with application fees?
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
But, and these are conversations that we'll have to have individually with grantees. We certainly want, you to be able to support your participants. We're actually recommending now that on budgets, rather than putting, wraparound fees as a line item and or wraparound services as a line item and transition services as a line item, that organizations simply put a single line item as like a barrier reduction fund or participant support services, and that then covers them all. So we don't have to worry about, well, we only put, $2,000 in a transition service line item, but we put $4,000 in a wraparound service line item, and we really need to move money around. It's really just all support services, and it should be one $6,000 line item, for example. So, but we'll move forward with that, and we'll figure out ways to assist individual grantees if there's a question.
Thank you, Dan. There's nothing further in the chat.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and let's see if I can walk through a demonstration of some of these. I think let's see, here we go. Okay. All right. So, I'm in IWRS, of course, and I'm on the participant recruitment and engagement tab. I'm going to start with talking about the high school slash GED HiSET upload. So I'm going to go to the Testersons, who I've set up, and I think I have Bill here we can use as an example. When I go to intake, let me get my annotation. So, of course, on step 1 here, we have the pre-screening application, the complete the application with the customer, and then below that, we have upload proof of high school graduation. So that's where this will be for everyone. Oops, wrong button. There we go. So all you'll need to do is click on the selected text, upload proof of high school graduation. A pop-up file or a pop-up window will appear. Then you'll click on choose file. You'll navigate to the area on your computer where you have saved this. I have an example PDF for a high school diploma here. And then you can add a description. This would be Bill diploma. And then you can select upload, and it will place it then now underneath that area. I don't think that you'll have this X here. I think that's because I'm a grant manager. I have the ability to delete it. If you do, it'll probably go away in the next update or two, but I don't think you'll have that X. Whenever something needs to be deleted, a help request needs to be entered. But so that's the high school diploma. It's a pretty straightforward process, again, but one that's pretty important for our grantees to be able to move forward with their program and making sure that if there are any audits that they can go through them. Any questions on the diploma? All right. Again, pretty straightforward. So then I've clicked on the training and services tab, and that takes us to where we can enter attendance. So I'm going to scroll down, and we're not going to do it just yet, but I'll point out that there's the program stipend. Right now we're going to the training services goal. So I'm going to expand that window, and I can see that some of these have start and end dates. Some of them do not. That's, again, because I was doing a test. I did not enter in all of the start dates for the entire cohort for some of these modules. So the ramification of that is that, again, however many individuals are in my cohort, maybe 20 or 25, sometimes 45, I'll need to then 45 times go into module 6 and enter those dates, rather than these, which were entered on the front end. I don't need to enter them because they just inherit over to the profile. And let's see, can't remember which one I was supposed to pick, but we'll see. I have to move my meeting controls. So I've selected the orientation. And as I mentioned, when you open up a given training module, it just takes you to the status default tab. There used to be another tab here, right here, for attendance. That's been removed. So we're saving an extra click there. And here's where I mentioned that this will default. I think it'll be grayed out on yours. Since I am a grant manager, I have the ability to edit it here. But normally that should all be entered by the grant manager in the cohort details screen, which I'll show you in a moment. But ultimately, what we're really looking for here is just the ability to, update status and change the attendance hours. So the first thing I would do would be to go to the post assessment, as always. As we mentioned in the grantee manual update session, the Illinois Works orientation is the only training module that can be pass-fail. So based on the individual attending, listening to the discussion about what the Office of Illinois Works is and the importance of the bid credit program and the apprenticeship initiative and how upon graduating from the pre-apprenticeship program, they'll be eligible to satisfy those requirements. And also completing the different forms, signing and dating the commitment agreement, filling out the orientation career assessment and the wraparound service assessment. Upon successful completion of all those things, they'll receive the pass-fail. So then, you can enter in that post assessment like we always do. I'm just going to put it on January 12th there. Click save. And then kind of working without a net here, I'm going to try to do this without, refreshing the screen. But now that has been satisfied, I should be able to also come in and enter my attendance. And it's as simple as changing the status here to successful completion, and then changing my attendance hours here, and then updating the customer service. It currently requires a case note. I'm actually going to talk about this in our next section, but we are going to be removing this case note requirement. Whenever it's a successful completion, we get it. It's a successful completion. So we're going to be removing that case note. So that's another little bit of time saver we're looking to implement. And then we see here that the customer service was updated successfully. So a much faster process, much more streamlined for entering in that attendance. Any questions about that?
There's one question in the chat, Dan. What happens if you check the box for attending a makeup session?
So it's just a flag that notifies Illinois Works that that maybe some of these hours here are makeup hours, and what that's used for then is so that we know when we're looking at the cohort rosters that there should be a makeup session somewhere in there. So maybe it's on a separate page, but it should all still be scanned in with that initial cohort upload.
Okay, that's all we have. Thank you.
All right. Excellent. So let's take a look at the attendance. As I mentioned, you would go to reports here. So I'm going to select that. And I demonstrated that we can either just scroll down or we can save ourselves some time by selecting just Illinois Works reports. So I'm just going to filter it to Illinois Works. And then here we have the attendance. So I'm going to select that. And we're taken to the customer services. Again, we're looking at ways to streamline this because this is essentially a report within a report. But we would then you know, you can set your filters for a single cohort, and I'm going to say filter that because this takes a little bit of time, so I'm just going to get started with it. And what it's going to show me is everyone with any service in Illinois Works in that cohort, right? So I have some individuals that, you know, have alumni networking. You know, some individuals that have already, you know, requested, opted into digital literacy assistance. But what we're going to do is go down to the instructional service and click through that to get to our attendance report. So now we're at the attendance report, and it's defaulting here for Illinois Works and my test provider, and it has selected this first cohort. If not, I could change it. A couple things to note: I can also export this information, and we are working on developing, you know, the import and import instructions, so this could even be streamlined further for you. But right now, as you can see, we have the ability to enter multiple attendances at a time for you know, a given module. So we are working to increase the ability to filter, so that, say, we could just look at module 7 here for our entire cohort. So we could just do, you know, Dave's and Bill's, so that would all be all that we see. But that'll be a future update. I'm not supposed to be talking about the future updates. That's in the next section that we're going to get to in about 15 minutes or 10 minutes, but I keep mentioning them. So we get a little bit of a preview. But the things I do want to highlight here is, again, as I mentioned, we're able to update the status. We're only going to be updating successful completion, because also we can move it from planned to started, but there's really no need to do that here. The reason unsuccessful completion and evaluated not required will not be statuses that we use here is because those still will require case notes, right? So it's just that that successful completion, as we saw, you know, I had to enter the case note, but that will be going away, that forced case note. So there we go, talking about the future stuff again. So we have the status, we have the start and end date. Again, if they were entered in on the cohort level, they would all appear here. The required hours, those are the ones that the grant manager will be entering, but the total attendance hours here are the ones that you'll enter, and checking that makeup session box. So it's very similar to what I just demonstrated on an individual basis, but we're working to put this together as a not only bulk attendance, but also a bulk upload feature for you. So any questions about this?
None in the chat.
Okay, great. So I talked about how we're going to be setting up those dates. So we click here on the provider info icon, that folder, and it takes us to the provider info page. The third tab here is grantee details. So I'm going to go ahead and select my Chicago test provider. Again, if you only have one, I think it just defaults for you, which is kind of nice. But from there, we'll scroll all the way to the bottom, which I know people love to watch. So there we go. And here we have our cohort information. And as I had shown on the slides, we're interested in 2024 here. So I'm going to select cohort 1 of 2024. And I popped it up into a different window. Normally when you click on it, it just stays right in that window. But here we are. And this is very similar to last year. A lot of the same functionality in terms of entering your start and end dates was in this screen. And there was actually an ability to enter your weekly required hours here. but that obviously has been removed because we no longer are managing attendance on a weekly basis. Now we're doing it with the total required hours. So this column here, again, those are the required hours based on the final curriculum form that it was agreed your program would be, and instructing for basic safety or hand tools or power tools. So those will be entered by your grant manager. And as we saw when we looked at, I think it was Bill Testerson's profile, only some of the modules had dates because, only some of them had dates here when I clicked on enroll. And so that's why those will need to be manually entered there. But as I mentioned, one of the first things is that we have to make sure that these training services are correct and adhere to what the final curriculum form says. And then once we do that, then the grantee manager, and this is all stuff that your grant manager is working on, the final curriculum form, and then having IWRS updated here, and then having IWRS updated here, and then you will be able to update IWRS here. Once that's done, we'll be able to go into enrollment, and it should be smooth sailing from there. So we anticipate this being about a 2-week process for most organizations. Okay. Any questions about setting this screen up?
Okay, just a second. Let me read this comment that just came from Debbie. Debbie asks, so we need to add the dates for the program stipend modular when entering dates for each unit, correct?
No, program stipend is actually here. It's not supposed to be. So it's going to be removed.
Okay, Debbie says, thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Yep. Although, I mean, as long as it doesn't flow into, there are occasions where things, services are in this field, in this column, and we can't remove them for one reason or another, programmatic, on the programmer side. But as long as they don't transfer into the training services goal, we don't worry too much about it. So we're working on making sure at least one of those two things happened. Either we remove it, you don't even have to see it and worry about it, or it'll be there, but it actually won't transfer over into your participants when you click enroll. All right, any other questions?
Nothing additional.
Okay, so then we'll just finish up, because again, this is essentially where your cohort starts and then where it ends. So then once the instruction is complete, and really on a module by module basis, you can come here and upload the attendance roster. And you can see here, orientation already took place, so the attendance roster has already been uploaded. And to do that, as I showed on the slides, you simply click on that upload attendance, select the module that's going under. Possibly it was basic safety was the next course that was completed for all of our participants. You would choose the file. Again, wherever you saved that attendance roster, you'll wind up selecting that. And here, that's the orientation one again, but you would select that, add a description and click upload. And then it would place it, I'm going to go ahead and do it. It would place it then under the module that you selected. So I'm going to refresh my screen. I'll just get out of this and I'll come back into it. And now we see that I uploaded the basic safety attendance roster. Okay. So I see a question just popped up regarding makeup sessions. it should all be scanned in together, ideally. But if you need to, if you do have a second roster that needs to be uploaded, you could. So I could go back in here. Let's say there's a basic safety makeup roster that was separate from that initial roster. I could come back in here and just upload another attendance roster. For the sake of time, because I know I'm going a little bit long. Overall, our session won't go long, but I know my section here is going long. So let me move on. I have to minimize my window so I can come back. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Then I talked about stipends. Let's go back into participant profile. So here we're on Bill Testerson. We are on the training and services tab, and I'm going to scroll down. Again, here are our 5 goals that every participant must have. And this here is the stipend. I'm going to select that, show next steps, and open the program stipend window. There it is. So I can go ahead and complete this. Or no, I'm not completing, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to the dollar value of service and give another update on the stipends. So I think here they were doing weekly stipends. So there's 10 hours a week the program is being held. We were paying out by check, but we've now moved to direct deposit. And this person, Bill, attended all 10 hours. So he's and successfully performed all of the requirements. Nope. Again, this is the date. I'm typing in the amount. So we have the date there. The total stipend amount, that's $142.50. And again, this has to be the same for whatever your stipend is. Not all organizations are paying the full amount, the maximum amount possible of $14.25. Some are paying $11 or $13 or $7.50. Whatever it is that your program is set up to pay, you would enter that there and click save. It says the record was saved successfully, and now we see that the new updated method of paying via direct deposit is listed there. And the nice part is that it provides a current total, a running total of the stipends. And as I mentioned, this number must match at the end of the day your accounting system. So again, if there's ever a question about how much you've been paying a particular participant, that should be here in IWRS and in your accounting system.
Dan, is it okay to interrupt? Okay, perfect. I have 2 questions. So perfect time. Let's go back to rosters for just a second. So Joe wants to clarify, is the preferred method to have one PDF with both the scheduled and the makeup session rosters?
Well, Joe, this is pretty new to us, so I don't think we have a preferred method yet. So whichever you want to do at this point, you can either scan them in together or scan, have 2 separate scans. I would ask that all of the makeup sessions. So if you're gonna, you finish the general instruction, 20 people, finished hand tools, and you scan that in, but there's 5 that need to do makeup classes and they come in at different times. I'd ask that all 5 of those makeup sessions be uploaded then at the same time. So essentially either one single one where you upload, the main cohort attendance rosters and all the makeup ones on additional pages, or 2 where you do the main one and then all of the makeup sessions. But I don't think we have a preference beyond that.
Okay, Joe says thank you. So the next question from Asia is actually regarding stipends. And so she's looking to see if it's acceptable or not. If they, well, let me just read her question.
Do stipends have to be dispersed based on the hourly rate? And then she gives a scenario here because where they take the total amount that they receive and allocate a certain dollar amount per milestone that's reached. So, at the completion of OSHA, at the something along those lines. So is that not acceptable? Is Asia's question.
So per the grantee manual, they must be attendance and performance based. So there has to be an attendance component involved in that. So I suggest you reach out directly to your grant manager to get clarification on what you're doing and or what needs to change.
Okay, that's all we have at this moment. And just for clarification, they did throw in their daily attendance. There's several different things that they use to determine that amount. But yes, Asia, please reach out to your grant manager.
Yeah, and first, definitely take the 2024 grantee manual and read the sections on the stipend, the policy, all of it, and then have the discussion with the grant manager.
Okay, just one last thing for clarity. Do they have to be, and this is stipends, do they have to be paid weekly or monthly? But I think what we typically do is either weekly or bi-weekly, correct?
Correct. The stipend policy and the grantee manual, both the 2023 and the 2024. I'm not sure about the 2022. But I know the 2023 and the 2024 grantee manual stipend policy says it must be weekly or bi-weekly.
And that's all we have for now.
All right. The last thing here, we had talked about the new wraparound service assessment. So there's not much to show there other than the fact that, as you can see, the three services that we had discussed are no longer part of the wraparound service assessment, and the new digital literacy is part of the wraparound service assessment. I will emphasize a point that I made to the new grantees on Tuesday. During orientation, it's really important for you to thoroughly discuss as a group the support services that are available, right? Because you're going to meet with them individually to ask them whether they need to opt in, ask them these questions, which will determine whether they're opting into any of these things. But unless they fully understand how you can help them with financial literacy, with digital literacy, with car repair, transportation costs, they may not know why they're opting into it, right? So it's really important to make sure that your participants are aware of how you can help them before you ask them on a one-on-one basis if they need to be helped. So just making sure we're clear on that, because wraparound services will be one of our highlights and focuses of this year. And then, I did mention that there was the update to the alternate construction transition, but again, that's a grant manager access, so we're not going to display that. So I'm going to hand things back over to Anna for Mentimeter. I think we're doing now.
Yes. Mentimeter. Let me share my screen. Great. All right. We're going to do this Mentimeter, and then actually, Dan, think about if we can have a break after the Mentimeter. So let's everybody get back in here to the Mentimeter. And again, Monica is putting that link back into the chat so that everybody has it front and center. And then we will proceed to ask you, this is a pop quiz. We're calling it a check-in, but so it's a fun way to check if you have actually been awake during this very long but wonderful presentation Great, we got 9 people in there so far. I'm just waiting for some more people to get in before I launch it. So we can see what's going on here. Thanks, everybody. You can just click on the link to get into the Mentimeter. This is always one of my highlights. I like to play along. And as I shared, I am also new. So occasionally I get something wrong. I'm like, oh. So let's see how well you're listening and how good your memory is. That's the other thing, right? And the thing to remember is that you do always have your manual that you can refer to answer pretty much any question, and you have your program managers as well to help you. But just a fun quiz here. All right, I'm going to get this started. Awesome. And look at all these fun players we have. We've got ghosts and cats and fish and all kinds of people who have joined. 41 have joined. Answer fast to get more points. Grantees will be able to upload high school diplomas in the provider info tab for all members of a cohort. True or false? And remember, the faster you answer, the higher your score. All right, so I see that some people did not know the answer. In fact, grantees will be able to upload high school diploma, and in fact, must upload high school diplomas or the other proof of high school completion into, and it's in that provider info
Nope.
tab.
Actually, Anna, it's saying that
Wrong.
the false was the correct answer.
Oh, I'm so wrong.
Yep, that's all right. So the
See?
provider info tab is for the rosters, but grantees will upload the high school diplomas individually on the participant profile. So not in
Thank
the
you, Dan.
provider. Yeah. So the people that
Thank you.
answered false, they're correct. They have the green check mark.
See? No shame, everybody. No shame. Thank you, Dan. All right. Leaderboard. FAR is in the lead, barely edging out KH by 1 point. All right, let's keep going. Question 2. We got 43 players ready. And oh, what happened? Uh-oh, it didn't show me the question. Did it show you guys the question? Can somebody help me out?
Go back one, Anna, and see if it requires the enter button. There we
Yes,
go.
it does. And I did not hit enter. Thank you so much, Gia. Great. And once again, answer fast to get more points. Stipend amounts need to be entered per participant each time a stipend is paid. True or false? The correct answer is true, and I see most participants got that right. Let's see how we're doing here with the leaderboard. Oh, FAR has been kicked into second place by KH. All right, let's keep going. Question number 3. 46 players. Thank you for playing. Answer fast to get more points. Only total attendance hours per module will be entered for each participant and attendance roster uploaded into the provider info tab per cohort. That is a lot. So think about it. And I see that we've got 31 people answered that correctly. So thank you. So that is a true statement. Only the total attendance hours per module will be entered. All right, leaderboard. Let's see what's going on. Oh, Ribbit has moved up to the top And I'm looking at the rest of the board too, and I saw some like Vote Goat kind of came up one, and yeah, so good job, everybody. Very fun. Let's keep going. And I think that's it, right? For right now, this check-in two, we're not going to do right now. I am going to come back here and that is our check-in. So before we go to module 4, we have been on for a good hour and a half. I'd like to give people at least a few minutes break. How much longer do we have in the set? Dan has given me a thumbs up. Thank you, Dan. That was the affirmation that I was looking for. So let's take a 10-minute break. Everybody, we will see you at 11:10.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Sorry, I'm laughing at myself because my big fear is forgetting to come back on time since I'm the one that's going to be talking. And I almost did. So, but I'm back. And hopefully you are all as well. Hopefully that was a long section. Again, we wanted to provide some context regarding some of those changes. And hopefully everyone can recognize that those were really large scale changes that affected a lot of systems in IWRS, and they were really done based on some of the input that we received from you. So just like we're going to have a survey at the end of this session, your feedback is really valuable to us, and we are trying to model the exact program improvement that continuous program improvement that we hope you are all undertaking as well. So again, thank you for all that. So section 4, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the features we're rolling out in 2024. This is not anywhere near as long as the last section, so we'll be through this in no time. And I've already spilled the beans on several of them. So the first one that we're going to talk about are case notes. So as I mentioned, we're going to remove the forced case notes for some of the status changes. So it will no longer be required for every single status change. So essentially for wraparound services, student support services, training services, and transition services, case notes will only be required for changes to updating the status to evaluated not required or unsuccessful completion. So essentially we want to know, well, why was that service not needed, right? They opted into that wraparound service, but now it's evaluated not required. Why not? Or, if it was unsuccessful, why was that? It's important to understand what those definitions mean, and they mean different things for different services. I will say, so make sure you're checking the 2024 grantee manual to understand the difference. Essentially, I'll just highlight one: unsuccessful completion. So under a training service, if an individual had an unsuccessful completion, that simply means that they were not able to complete, right? Maybe they left the program, they couldn't pass the post-assessment, whatever the case may be. When you select unsuccessful completion for wraparound service, that means that your organization failed to properly provide that service to the individual, right? So we want to be very careful when you select, why something wasn't needed. Sometimes for wraparound services, they changed their mind and they said, oh, I no longer need this, or their circumstances changed. You know what? Now my brother can assist me with this, or can give me a ride, or can take care of my child, whatever the case may be. Then it's evaluated not required, right? So which has a very different outcome in our reporting. But that's good news. The case notes will be changed and updated. The work plan report. This is a report that's available to you from the main screen when you first log on. You're typically at the participant recruitment and engagement. I think that's the name of the tab. A couple tabs over is the work plan report. This report currently pulls data when grantees enter enrollments, completions, and transitions based on the dates that the enrollment status was entered or the completion status was entered into IWRS. And it also focuses on the dates of the work plan that you submitted to your grant manager and is approved by your grant manager. So those are entered into IWRS. And if those dates don't align for whatever reason, then those enrollments or those completions are not counted in the IWRS report. So we're going to ensure that we change that. And then because those numbers that it pulls are the numbers of enrollments that you've entered versus the number of enrollments that your grant manager has verified, there are discrepancies between this report and the compliance report. So in 2024, we're looking to update this report in a couple ways. First of all, the dates in IWRS will reflect the work plan dates, but they will not exclude outcomes that are outside of those dates. So if an individual is in, cohort 1 and your end date was listed as, May 15th, if they don't wind up completing because of a makeup or a makeup test or a makeup sessions, for whatever reason, until June 4th, that will now still be included because they're still in cohort 1. Then the numbers that the numbers that are shown in the system will be the metrics that have been verified by grant managers. So this will give you more visibility into the numbers that are verified and will maintain more consistency with what you see on your compliance reports. So again, we don't know when these updates will take place, but those are on our on our list of improvements. The next one, cohort dropdown. We'll see this in a couple of slides on the participant recruitment and engagement screen. We're going to see how that updates. So let's just move past that one because we're going to address that in a filtering section in a moment. In addition, and then the export report, in addition to the credential uploads and the new transition service, there are a couple more additions to the 2024 export report. One will be completion dates. We want to have that added as a available field, and that will help you determine really when was a participant due for their active tracking, right? As we all know, grantees are required to follow up with graduates every 90 days for a year, right? But every 90 days from what date? So it's the completion date of their program. So that's going to be available in the export report. And then the other addition to the export report is that the answers to the most recent active tracking questionnaire will be added. Currently, when a participant gets their overall status is changed to complete and in transition, they fill out a baseline questionnaire, which is exactly the same as the active tracking questionnaire. The results of that baseline are what are pulled through on the export report today. And they remain there on the export report even after multiple active tracking questionnaires are completed. So the update we're looking for is to ensure that the export report essentially provides the most recently completed questionnaire in that information. And this will allow grantees to gather the information in a bulk process rather than checking per participant, to determine, hey, where does this person stand? Are they employed? Are they not employed? Did they register? Or did they enroll in that registered apprenticeship program? Or which registered apprenticeship programs are they still interested in? So that'll be a big improvement to that export report. I mentioned the cohort dropdown. So this is part of the, on the next screen, the advanced filtering of participants. On this participant recruitment and engagement tab, so essentially the main screen when you first log in, Illinois Works is looking to enhance the ability to search for participants by adding the cohort search. Ideally, this will allow you to select not only a single cohort, but multiple cohorts, right? So essentially, if you wanted to pull all of your participants from 2022, if you ran the program in 2022, you would then be able to select, cohort 1 FY22, cohort 2 FY22, and then hit search, and all of those would appear. As we all know, that export report we just talked about will provide you with the participants that are currently displayed, right? So the results of whatever current search you're in. So if you do a search, say, for all of your individuals that are currently in complete and in transition status and hit search and then hit the export report, it's going to give you everyone that's in complete and in transition on that export report and no one else. So this will allow you to just search for people in a given cohort or cohorts and also export that information. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a very quick section. We were done with that. I will kind of demonstrate a couple of things that we wanted to show where some other reports are contained. So let me get my screen set up so I can share. Oh, I should mention here, as we see, that we are undergoing a very rigorous plan to update and improve IWRS, and we're meeting constantly with IWRS. They've been great partners. We are providing them with 5 to 8 updates every month, and we will be doing these updates throughout the year and finishing sometime in fall of 2024. So hopefully you all received the technical memo that was sent out, I think, on Monday regarding a lot of these changes. And we anticipate doing that whenever we make substantial changes to IWRS, so that you can all stay informed with those changes and have access to any of the instructional tools that SIU has put together. They put together some great, job aid PDFs that you can go on a step-by-step basis and see them. And then they also had put together, in some cases, some video tutorials. And those are all available on our partner guide. So just to be clear on that. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so a couple things we just talked about. The forced case notes I actually already demonstrated earlier. If you remember, I changed a status to successful completion, and then a case note popped up, and I had to go ahead and enter that very quickly. That will be eliminated. So that's one of the things we've already demonstrated. The work plan and report updates, that is right here. Some grantees like using this a lot. Some grantees find the compliance reports, provide more direct information, and so they just utilize those on a monthly basis. Ideally, you might be able to start using this as a kind of a pre-compliance check for yourself, or just a quick status update. But whichever you choose, if you do want to use these, you would go into this this section, and you can filter it again by the individual, and then you can select the cohort that you're looking to view. This is only available if your grant manager has entered in a work plan report for you. So that is one step that's necessary. So if you need that information, reach out to your grant manager. And certainly for 2024, we're still in the process of finalizing all of those work plans alongside the curriculum forms. So that's kind of where that stands. And then going back to the participant recruitment and engagement tab, the exact placement of these, we're not sure, but essentially we're looking to add a drop down for the cohort. It might be to the right here. It might just be in succession with some of these, but it will allow you to do a quick search and export of, a given cohort or a given year or a group of cohorts. And then, and the export report that I've been referring to all along has been right here. So we'll be able to see that as well. Okay, I think that was everything that I had to cover on the kind of quick demonstration of where things are going to be updating in 2024. Are there any questions that I have before we move into the final round of our check-in?
There are no questions in the chat, Dan.
There are none? Okay,
Nope.
Great. So I'm going to hand this back over to Anna to take us through the last part of our competition.
Wonderful. All right, let's get back into Mentimeter, and hopefully you're already in there. And let's see, just looking at this. Okay. Great. Let me bring up the Mentimeter slide. This is our second check-in. I see people are joining here. Gonna wait just a minute for others to join, so everybody can be part of the fun. All right, I'm gonna get started. I want to make sure that this is the right question. All right, answer fast to get more points. Worst case notes will no longer be required on every status change for services, true or false? The correct answer is true. And so something I see quite a few people answered false to that. So just know that they will no longer be required on every status change. They are required sometimes, but not on every single status change. All right. Ooh, ribbit. All the way up. Oh, nope. Homer was faster. All right, let's go to the next question. 41 players ready. Answer fast to get more points. A new dropdown will be added to the participant recruitment and engagement that will allow grantees to sort by cohort as well. Is that true or false? And the answer is true. And I see the vast majority of folks got that one right. And let's see how we're doing on the leaderboard. Homer. All right. Let me see. I think Homer's dropping. Simba now takes the lead, and with ET, well, not that close behind. Simba takes a strong lead. Question 6 of 7. Answer fast to get more points. In 2024, the work plan update report will not exclude participant outcomes based on those dates. Is that true or false? And that one was that is true. So this year, the work plan update report will not exclude participant outcomes based on those dates. See what's going on. All right, Simba, good job, and Maverick right behind. And our last question before we find out who won. Participant recruitment and engagement tab will be enhanced to filter the search for participants. True or false? All right, great. Everybody heard that one. I bet you're excited. That's why everybody got that one right. So good job. And let's see the final winner here. Looks like Simba. Oh, wait, Simba was 6,467 points. Congratulations, Simba, and good job to everybody else. And mostly, good job for playing. Thank you for playing. Everybody gets a trophy because you know we are in that era. Congratulations to everybody. And even if you didn't get it all right, you learned something, right? And that's the whole point of it. So now we're going into our feedback. We've reached the end of the session. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions and for playing along with the Mentimeters. And as you know, and we have repeated on many occasions, we are very interested in getting your feedback on how we're doing so that we can make sure that in the future we are continuously improving your experience. So please share your views on this training by rating the following statements from lowest, which is a 1, to highest, which is a 10. To what extent did it meet your expectations? How likely are you to attend a similar event in the future? And how likely are you to recommend this training to others? Great. So I can see that it largely met all of those goals? I'm going to wait just another second for some other people to finish answering. Great, thank you so much. The course was relevant to what you wanted to learn about the subject matter. On that scale, that 5-point scale of strongly agreeing to strongly disagreeing, where do you land? And I see that we have mostly strongly and somewhat agreeing, and then we do have some people who either strongly disagree or don't agree or disagree, so you'll have a chance to let us know why moving forward. Do you plan to apply what you learned? Great, I see with 1722 people in, we've got mostly strongly agreed. Awesome. And then what improvements might you recommend? So this is your chance. If it did not meet your expectations or provide what you needed, just please let us know. And all right. And you feel free to put NA in the comments box because we, since we have to wait for people to type, that way I'll get a better sense of how many people are responding and we won't have to pause and wait as long. That disagree was a mistake. It would be helpful if presenters had more time with the material to get more familiar so that participants could be clearer. Thank you. Helpful feedback. Hard to follow with so little time. Yeah, it was a lot in the first section and breaking it up would have been better. Everything was great. Thank you for that feedback. Grantee manual pages for reference would be helpful. I'm going to stop scrolling for a second so I can read these. I feel like this is late. Yeah. You understand we do it for the website update, but this should have been covered in January before the cohort started. Yes, understood. Please show the screens while you're talking about them. It is hard to follow. Yeah, we'll review that. Thank you for that. Then reviewing information as we go along with the training is good. Miscommunication with the compliance date. Okay. And then let's keep scrolling here. Would like the PDF in order to make notes on the pages. You'd like more time to enter information before compliance pull. Yes, thank you. We appreciate that, the updates have taken quite a while and it has caused an inconvenience for everyone. And it would be helpful if we could get the upgrades 2 weeks before the pullout day. Agreed. Thank you so much, everyone, for that feedback. We're going to move to the next question. What did you find effective about today's session? And if we do make changes, what do you recommend we keep? And again, if you don't have any comments, feel free to just write NA.
And as people are adding that, just a few things in the chat. Rochelle says, thank you. This was great. Melverta says she strongly agreed and would most definitely apply the information that was received. A few more much appreciated in the chat. So
Thank you. Thank you, Monica.
Mhm.
All right. So what'd you find effective? Seeing the slides on screen and answering questions in real time, the testing questions throughout the session, combining student attendance. Thanks for making the changes to the attendance. You're very welcome. And that it was a hands-on session. So thank you very much for your comments. I'm just going to wait another few seconds to see if anybody else had any other comments before we move. All right, I'm going to keep moving. Is there anything else about the course that you think we should know? So just any comments that you haven't thought to provide yet, just let us know, or you could write NA or no to let us know that you're engaged.
Anna, this is Dan. I sorry to interject. I do want to just throw it out to grantees. On a couple slides ago, there were several grantees that indicated that they didn't feel that there was enough time between this session and compliance. We definitely hear you and understand that. If there is a grantee that feels that they cannot manage compliance this month, please send me an email. Give a full description of, when your cohort started, why you haven't been able to enter information into the applicant intake field, and when you think you will be ready. And we'll compile all of that and take it to the board, and we'll talk about it, and we'll get back to you.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Good. So any last comments from the team before we close out? And thank you for that comment. We're making progress with communicating the information, so we appreciate that. Any last comments from the team before we close this out? All right. With that, thank you so much, everyone, for being present and for providing your feedback, and thank you for your additional comment. Thanks for your engagement today. Thank you for being, and you know what? Thank you for being our partners. This is we're doing such important work together. Certainly, we here at DCEO could not do this program without you. So thank you for the difference that you are making in so many lives. And with that, have a good rest of the day and rest of the week, and we'll be talking.